Welcome back to another episode of Running Your Best Life. I'm joined by my co host Adele as we dive into the fastest and most unique marathon experience out there, the Tunnel Marathon in North Bend, Washington.
Oh, that's right. This race is famous for its downhill course. It's stunning, it's beautiful, the scenery's unbelievable. And of course, you have the 2.5-mile tunnel along the way that the runners have to navigate in total darkness.
I ran this marathon back in 2018, and I can tell you it's an experience like no other. Today, we'll break down what makes this marathon so popular, how to train for the downhill challenges, and the, what the key race day tips will be to help you run your best race.
And really, whether you're chasing a Boston qualifier or a PR, or truly looking to run a marathon with a lot of adventure, this episode has everything for you, everything you need to know.
Oh, let's get right into it.
Let's do it.
This, absolutely. I ran this marathon in 2018. It was an amazing experience. The only one thing I did not like was I planned to park at the school where they bus you to the top of the hill and then you start the race. However, when I got there, I forgot my cell phone. So I took the bus back down, and by the time it was time to get back to the race, it was getting too late. So I had to drive over there, and I didn't have a parking permit for the state park. I parked there anyway, and sure enough, at the end of the race, when I went to pick up my car, it had a ticket.
Well, that's called race preparation, y'all.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to mention that because people told me, you have, and they tell you that right before. So if they tell you you're going to have a ticket, you are going to have a ticket. But it's just something to think about. Even if you do have a permit, it's kind of a something you really have to think about planning because you're going to end up 26 miles away from the start race. So you need a ride back to the car if you are going to park at the
Right.
beginning.
Right.
Um,
And I think a lot of these races, especially a point to point like this one, what you're going to have, and this is really just some genuine information based on our experiences, y'all. A lot of times the races will have the navigation to park at the end, bus you to the front, get to the front, bus you back to the end when you finish, whatever it is you need to do. Just make sure that you make the plans ahead of time. Like Victor said, he didn't want to miss a race he had trained for. So that's called race prep, just like tie your shoes.
yes. Absolutely, but it is getting more and more popular for different reasons. One is a very beautiful race. You go
Mhm.
through a tunnel that's 2.5 miles, pitch dark. So you have
Wow.
to make sure you take a lamp with you, a headlight or some sort of lighting. That's mandatory.
Okay.
The other thing to consider is that your GPS might go a little bit haywire
Right.
if you're trying to pace yourself and guide yourself by pace. Uh, you may want to just look at your watch at the third mile and see, make sure that you're still on pace and make adjustments on that.
So
Another,
let me ask
yes,
you on that note, because I think a lot of people use the different programs. They'll use the Apple's watches, the Garmin's, they'll use the Strava, all the different programs. So if you're in there and you've had this experience and your watch it messes it up, is your chip time valid if your actual device does not have the actual time? That's just, it might be a rhetorical question, but I'm assuming there's a chip on either your number or something they give you when you start the race as participant to go from point to point. Do you know if that
yes.
is part of that race as well, to have something to keep track of the runners like
Yeah,
that?
and I think most apps, running apps will give you an average
Oh,
of what
good.
you are doing and pretty accurate towards the third mile. The only thing is that if you're trying to, where I had trouble was keeping the race pace in those first
Okay.
3 miles.
Okay.
Mm,
Is the terrain through the tunnel easy to navigate? Is it wet? Is it damp? Is it gravelly? Is it smooth? Is it something you have to really pay attention to?
it's smooth, but it's damp,
Okay.
and it's slanted towards the edges. So the recommendation is that you stay in the middle
Yes.
of the road.
Okay.
That's a best recommendation. And they do have waves now. I did in 2018. I
Oh,
don't remember them having start waves, but because the terrain is pretty narrow, they have wave starts. The-
okay. How many do they top out at a maximum for this race, Victor?
I found a detail part that said 500, but I'm not sure. It's between 500 and
Okay.
750, I
Okay.
believe. I was going to have the director. Her name is Crystal, I believe,
I think so.
and hopefully we'll have her maybe either next week, and she can give us a lot more details on that.
Okay.
Mm,
So
But
truly, if you want to run this particular race or any of the dates that they offer, you want to have an early entry, correct?
that's correct because they do sell out. They're very, very popular. The only advantage to this course, as far as filling up, is that they do have it 3 times a year. It's the same
Good.
course
Okay.
with different names, but they'll have it
Okay.
in June, they'll have it in August, and then they'll have it in September. Mm,
That's a lot of opportunity to qualify for Boston or any of your other qualifying marathons.
Yes.
Downhill makes you fast, guys. Downhill makes you fast.
It's downhill, and if you prefer trails, which are usually easier
Mhm.
on your joints,
Right.
that's great advantage. If you're doing it just as a fun, fast route, it also a very scenic route, and you, according to the search on Google Chrome, they
Mhm.
give you 7.5 hours. So
Oh
don't quote me on
wow.
the
Okay.
accuracy on that, but they give you a long time to finish the race. Where
Okay.
other races that I've been that are very fast, like St. George or other ones,
Mhm.
they have a faster times that you have to you have to be at the halfway point at a certain time, or because they
Uh-huh.
do shut down the road. But
Okay.
this isn't in a road; it's in a state park,
Okay.
so there are not too many roads they have to shut off. They probably just around the parking lot for the school where they
Yeah.
have to direct traffic.
So this particular race with the three different dates, when did you actually run your event in 2018? What time of the year did you run it?
I ran the one in September.
Okay.
Yes.
Is the weather in September in that area still a little warm, maybe damp, humid?
It was a little bit cool at the time, actually. So it wasn't definitely wasn't humid.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
And according to the website, their average temperatures go from 50 degrees to 68. So I think you're going to be right in the middle. I think more in the cooler side than in the hot side.
Well,
Probably your hottest one would be in August.
right. Well, and that's what I was going to say because running in Louisiana, as I've mentioned to everybody before, today's an absolutely beautiful day. It's February. It's going to be in the 70s and 80s. Absolutely gorgeous day. But like spring weather. So the key is also with the downhill running, just remember we talked about equipment and how to really be successful with some different tips. We'll review those a little bit later. But downhill running, y'all, if it's in the warmer part of the year, you have to remember that it's going to take a lot of taxing on your body. You're going to be at that incline. You're going to be really worried about how your shoes or your feet are digging into your shoes. Make sure that you prepare for that part of the race too, the humidity, the moisture that's going to be in the air, how you want to navigate around any kind of chafing, which we can address a little bit later as well. But in that August, it's August. I'm sorry, June, August, and September, correct?
That's
And
correct.
yeah, that June race is going to be kind of warm too. But you got to remember where you're running to. You're in Washington State, and it's not going to be like running the humidity in Louisiana. But when you do have those warmer um, factors in running 26 miles downhill, yeah, you go faster. You're not going to create enough wind to wash the sweat away. So just remember to
Yeah.
prepare for the humidity and the heat. September will be a little bit cooler, and obviously, you can adapt to that as well. So that's
Yeah.
another point. That's why I'm glad you ran it in September and you were pretty comfortable, correct?
I was very comfortable, and definitely would have done a better time had I done more downhill races. I mean,
Okay.
downhill races or downhill training on trails. Most of my downhill training that I did was on pavement.
Right.
So I think that because it does get technical in certain
Mm.
areas where you're making sharp turns,
Okay.
I think that having that practice will definitely benefit um, your speed if you're really trying to PR in this race.
Okay.
Getting those things prepared, like training on the trails, doing what we talked about last week about uh,
Right.
working out the quads, doing some plyometrics that will get you used to some of those impacts
Right.
of downhill racing. And then shoes are very important. There's
Yeah.
uh, I suggest traction shoes, like trail shoes, but
Mhm.
something with a lot of cushion again is preferred because it is hard to land on the bottom on the balls of your feet uh,
Right.
in
Right.
some areas. So having extra cushion shoes is going to help.
I think the other thing too about running with the trail shoes and practicing on the gravel, a lot of times if you go on a hike, let's say you go on a hike, you'll see people running on those trails in the little forest, or if you're on some kind of little mountainside, depending on where you are when you're hiking, so to speak. There's a lot of runners I've seen when I've done some hiking that are actually running through those trails. And that's the kind of thing you want to be attentive to. You've got the rocks, you've got the gravel, you've got the dampness, you've got the moisture, you've got the angles where the trail can dip to the sides. So the biggest point about all this information is to be prepared for how you're going to run it and take the time to practice on it. Even if you take a little drive somewhere away from your house, maybe a little hiking trail where you actually use your running shoes to go through it, and just be very careful when you're doing it to really get used to it. I think Victor made a point too about the tunnel, with the darkness and it's damp. Whenever you stay toward the middle of your street or your path, you're avoiding some of those dips and slips that you could potentially have as well, especially if the gravel's a little bit moist at that time of the year. Um, and definitely practice, and know your course.
Yes, and especially on this one, pacing is so important on the
Mhm.
downhill because it's easy to go fast at the beginning. So finding a really good pace for yourself. The other thing that this race doesn't provide, I don't think it provides pacers as far as I've
Okay,
learned. So that the pacing is it's up to you. And if you can run with a buddy that's going to help you
right,
stay disciplined to a pace, that's even going to go much better. And if you can go for a negative split,
right.
then you know you're going to finish strong. I am a big believer in a negative split. So that means running the first half just a tad bit slower than the second half. So that requires you to stay disciplined, stick to your pace, so that at the halfway mark you still have energy to go even a little bit faster than you did in the first half.
And that brings something to my mind too. When you're running this particular race, and let's just say they top out at 500 participants, how tightly packed do you find the runners stay? Do you find that there's a lot of room between runners once you come through the tunnel and start to adapt and get set in your pace, or are there little packs where you have to be more aware of the road and the environment around you?
It's pretty packed when I ran it. I
Okay.
think it's changed a little bit with the wave starts so that you're not so packed. And then it's the first 3 miles that you're on a wide road, and then it starts to narrow down. And by then you're pretty separated and you have plenty of room.
So pretty
Uh,
much you're single file through the tunnel, or just not too many in a pack. Everybody's
you
trying to
know,
run.
I wouldn't say single file in the tunnel. The tunnel is somewhat, it's not super narrow, but it's not super wide either, but enough to where you can be, I think, three bodies elbow to elbow.
You, you know what that makes me think about, and you've done the Ironman. For any of you viewers who have done the Ironman competitions, regardless of the distance, when you go out into the water, which obviously is your first part of that race, I've had so many friends, and Victor can probably say this. You tend to get underneath somebody else, it gets underneath another participant, or you get over them, and everybody's going in one direction, and you're actually like a little school of fish. I'm
Yes,
wanting to, I get that impression when I'm watching people kind of navigate through the tunnel, like kind of little bugs all going together.
it is a little tight. Yes. Mm.
You're in everybody's sweat.
Yes. But it's fun, and then I like the fact that you can go through the tunnel and then you can get rid of your lamp. You can either put it away in your backpack and you're done with a lamp first
Okay.
thing, whether I think it would be difficult if you had to keep it handy and have to
Mhm.
use it again or anything. But no, once you get that 2.5 miles of tunnel, you can put away your lamp.
Clear sailing. So, do you find in these kind of races, Victor, since you've done it before, do you find that a lot of the runners will carry almost like a little camel pack type of water and hydration, or is there enough support along that downhill route for the runners not to have to carry the extra water bottles or the extra hydration pack, the little camel packs, like a lot of us will
Yeah,
use on long?
there is definitely enough support.
Okay, good.
I but if you're somebody who is used to a specific hydration that you carry
Mhm.
because you put specific electrolytes just for yourself,
Mhm.
then I see nothing wrong with carrying the Camelback. Just don't carry so much that it's weighing you down.
Right,
But if
right.
you're training that way, then by all means go ahead and carry it
Mhm.
on race day. I don't see any problem with that. Just be cognizant of the little bit of extra weight. I
Right,
don't like carrying this stuff because I want to be as light as possible, and I'm usually okay with whatever they're offering. But that depends too on the pace that that athlete is doing. If it's a slow person, is a lot slower, and there are a lot many hours out there,
right.
then be they're not going to get to the aid station for a while. So
Mhm.
it's better for them to carry their own hydration, and that way they don't have to wait until they get to the next mile marker or wherever the aid station is before they
Right.
get hydrated.
So my suggestion on that to any of you who are have run these long distance races, like even a 10K in warm weather where you might carry some things with you, your half marathons obviously, and then your marathon distances and anything you've done beyond that. A lot of times you can have these lightweight weight belts that can carry the little handheld bottles, fit in the little pouches or the little bands on the side. Sometimes you can have like not quite a liter or the size of a water bottle. You have to train with anything you're going to wear around your waist, or if you do a camelback on your back, don't go out and do it on the first for the first time on a race. Just like don't wear new shoes on race day. One of the things you want to understand is when you're doing these kind of distances, and we talked about this a little bit over the last few weeks. Always know your route. Always be able to practice on the different terrain that you're running, if it's not street or trail running, whatever you're going to be doing. But one of the biggest things, too, is what you're wearing and the equipment you're carrying that your body is going to be carrying. A waist belt. I used to use a waist belt with at least one water bottle whenever I ran a marathon. But I used it when I was training those, 12, 15, 20-mile training runs because it got used to where I positioned that bottle, how it didn't hit on my hips after, all those miles, how light I wanted the water in it and the times I could fill it up. Also the little pockets on any kind of little waist belt or pack that you carry where you're going to put your nutrition. You want to make sure, so you want to be hands free a lot of times. You're getting tired, your arms want to drop, you don't want them hold them tight. That uses extra energy as well. So all of these things are important, especially on something like a downhill trail run that Victor's talking about. Practice running with your equipment as well as running the route and the
Yes.
terrain. It's very, very important. And I think too, Victor, one of the things I know we may have some pictures. Um, Victor was trying to pull up a few of the pictures to show y'all too, but before we actually get to that point, I want to make a point too with your equipment. Want to remember you're training on your plyometrics, your hydration, your nutrition could be very different running this kind of race because you are going to a faster pace. So your strength, your quads, your hamstrings, your toe box cushions, everything that you're going to use, make sure you practice with all of that. And socks are a big key issue too. The shoes are a key issue, trail shoes. The biggest thing you want to do is make sure you mimic race day as closely as possible. And I think if we do have some pictures at all, once you get used to what you're doing, you're going to enjoy that day so much more, regardless of the outcome and regardless of what time is on the clock. You've prepared, just like if you're preparing for an exam in college or writing your papers and preparing for your thesis or your research papers in high school. You're spending time making things happen prior to the race. Oh, here's some pictures too. Woman owned. That's one of the businesses. That's a good one to pull up there, Victor.
Yeah, and I'm trying to get to the. Let me see if I can. I forgot how
While
I did
Victor navigates
this.
through that, let me refresh a little bit about some of the things that we suggested if you do plan to do some downhill running. Um, Obviously, you want to do some of the hydration. Look, there's one that's pacer. No, I don't know if that's the race.
Oh, see, so maybe they do have
Okay.
pacers. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
the one of the websites said that they don't provide, but and it could be for some of them they do and some of them they don't. But they
Right.
do have a half marathon. That's another thing that they could
Oh,
probably,
good. Okay.
uh, if somebody wants to do a half marathon. And I don't know if all three races provide the half marathon. It's
Okay.
something that you definitely want to go to the website and find out. Mhm.
Now he looks like
Y-
he's been running pretty good. He's even got a tank top trail route, so he's obviously a trail runner.
Yeah, so these are the
Oh
pictures
wow.
from Instagram that people provided.
Okay. Now I'm looking at the terrain. That's a gravel. If y'all look at that, that's a gravel terrain. It's not thick, but it's going to be slippery a little bit too. Ah, there's somebody with a medal. Ah, finish line.
Yeah, so
Now,
you go over some bridges and you can see that
okay.
beautiful scenery. It's so beautiful.
Now there's a lot of streams, and I guess little. Oh, this is key, y'all. I'm gonna let Victor talk to you a little bit about what's on
Y-
this screen because this is so
Yes.
so vital.
Yeah, these races always welcome volunteers, and you do get some perks. And like this one, the person commented, you get 50% race credits, or you might get a free entry. So always look into volunteering if not just not just for the perks and the benefits of volunteering, but it also gives you a different perspective. You get to learn more about the course, you get to meet people. It's an amazing feeling to volunteer for some of these races. Mm. And because it runs 3 times a year, you could
Right.
easily volunteer for one race and run it on the next race, the next occasion.
Yeah. And listen, y'all, remember anything that you give back to an experience that you want to have makes it that much better. And if there's a chance that you train and you have an injury that's going to prevent you from race day, still become a part of the experience. Let the race director know, look, I have to pull out of the race because of an injury. I won't be able to complete it, but I definitely want to be here. What can I do to help? You want to put me along the route? Do you want me to put at a water or a medical stop? Anything that you can do makes it that much more worthwhile if you're not actually running. There's a lot of opportunities, and if you do receive any perks, that's just lanyap as we call it in Louisiana. Here's one of the runners now. So definitely keep that volunteering edge and to the experiences that you want to have. It's an amazing adventure. Wow, is this a tunnel?
Yes, and there's another pacer. So I've definitely they're definitely showing a lot of pictures with pacers. So definitely, if they do have pacers, that's going to be key
Yeah,
for taking the pressure of you keeping your own time.
right, right.
And
I
that's
think
at the exit of the tunnel.
yeah, I think keep that one up there for a few minutes because I want y'all to notice something. If you notice, a lot of these runners are coming out. If you'll see that they have some things in their hands, they probably removed their headlamps, right? They're
Yes,
coming,
and
right,
probably like when they started to see the light. Because these are fast runners. They're
Yeah.
shooting for 315, so they
Yeah.
obviously going at a really fast pace, and everybody removed their lamps way ahead of exiting
Right.
the the tunnel. I can't see what's in front of this guy's. Oh yeah,
Okay.
he's
Looks
got
like
the
it's,
headlamp on his hand, and
yeah.
something else on the right hand.
And it looks like
Here's the
too, what
camera.
I'm looking at, especially the first two guys, they're holding little bags, and I would assume those are some little string bags that they could put like the headlamp or any of their equipment in. That's not going to be overly heavy to come out and finish their race. Because y'all got to remember, this race you're coming out the tunnel at about the 3 mile mark, 2.5 mile mark.
It's 2.5 miles. So
Okay.
no, it's exactly 2.5 miles at the exit,
Okay.
and then it's, I believe, a total of 4 miles of wide. This wide that you see in the width of that, the
Right.
road is about four,
Okay.
up to the 4 mile mark, and then it starts getting more into trail like,
Okay. This just
narrow.
amazed me. It just blows my mind because it looks like it's coming out of a train tunnel. This is like
Yes.
the engine is coming out with the pacer, and those are some of the faster runners because that 315 pace is pretty cool. That's a pretty fast group of people there. That's
Yeah.
such a great picture. Oh, I love it.
No, there's
Now
one
there you go.
official.
Now that's a different day, y'all.
Yeah. And here's some aid
Yeah.
stations.
I would assume,
Here's
Victor, that they have
another.
some aid stations along the way for the participants. Would you say maybe a
Yes,
couple?
they're having enough. Like I said, it's been a while since I ran it, but the website would have, if you get into really good details, you follow the website, they'll
Mhm.
have exactly where those aid stations are, where the water
Okay.
stations are, everything. It's a good idea, and a good idea to see the course and the elevation parts.
Right.
And if you're interested, one of the best thing you can do is you can schedule a conversation
Right.
with me or with one of us or with both of us to talk about running this race, and we can try to answer any questions about training. And if
Mhm.
we don't have the answer, we'll look it up for you.
Right.
uh, yeah, schedule it, put what questions you want answered. That way when we talk to you, we can have those answers for you, and
Right.
how to best tackle any problems that you thinking you might encounter.
So as we always mention to y'all, remember we do that free slash complimentary call and help you make sure you have the right information you need. If it's a specific like this downhill racing or a downhill marathon or half marathon distance that you'd like to have as a goal. But the biggest thing is to actually have someone like ourselves help you learn how to do it, right? So don't pass on that free strategy call, y'all. There's so much information that we can offer you and help you plan ahead so that you know the best way to be most successful in the goal you'd like to achieve. And if it's not a downhill race, that's all right. This is our topic for the day. Contact us anyway. Victor is going to have all the information behind, with our program notes. Please don't hesitate. He looks like he's happy. Thanks,
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah, he's got
That's
the.
how I like to feel at the end. Is that Victor? That's what you look like at the end, isn't it?
He pretty much. I wish. Not always.
I agree. Y'all, this is such a great, there's a beautiful picture. That's a great shot.
Yeah.
Great shot by the tunnel.
So you can see how dark it gets in there.
Yeah. So I'm gonna marathon maniacs. I've got some of the half marathon maniac shirts. This is a 5 hour pacer. This is going to be a slower pace, but a very comfortable pace. So if you are running downhill, this particular pacer is going to try to keep you where you're not overextending your legs, your strides, keep you within that pace element that is so much important, so important that you don't overstride, you don't overpull those hamstrings, don't tax those quads. So that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks like he's doing pretty well at that point. Number three, I mean,
Yes.
one of the
Yeah.
faster ones. I love the terrain. I love the scenery because here in South Louisiana, you've got some gorgeous parks to run through, but they're all flat. So not they're very fast. They also offer some good qualifying times for a lot of marathons around the country, but they're flat. And y'all, this downhill racing concept is something everybody should try at some point. I did have a question that I asked Victor earlier before we came on camera, and that would be about any cyclists that you usually see that are security along the race and safety along the race. He said he's not sure, but it seems to me that they've got a lot of really good support all through the course. Just remember that a lot of the races, you may have cyclists that are carrying some little med packs. This particular race may have a few extra because of it being a downhill. They may be able to navigate through the participants a little bit easier. So always be aware of security, safety, and medical attention and medical aid that's available along these different terrains and these different courses. That's key. And that's a lot of times those people are volunteers out there that are there to help the participants be successful, don't get hurt, don't get injured, and achieve their goal, get to the finish line, get that big heavy medal.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, I think the biggest thing, if anything, that to get ready for this races is to be aware that the damage that we do to those muscles is more than some of the flat races or even hilly uh, rolling races. You
Right.
do put a lot of pressure on those quads, and it takes a while to recover from them. That's what I've noticed. I've done quite a few downhill races where it took me a long time to recover from them, just because you're using such different muscles, and a lot of those have such a long period of just running downhill.
How
Mm,
did your feet feel after? Because the one thing is about the stride and the pressure and impact on, the hips and the leg muscles. But as far as your feet, how did you feel after? Because that's a very different impact to your
yes,
toes, your arches, and your heel.
yes, definitely the ankles were very sore,
Okay.
but probably nothing more sore than the quads,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's still sore.
Yeah, I think
And
that's every surface and every terrain. The quads and the
yeah,
hamstrings, but definitely the quads. So I'm going to recap just a quick little bit about a few points we made last week, and I want Victor to recap a little bit more about the race itself. Remember that when you're training, always check out the environment. Always prepare your equipment. Make sure you've got the trail shoes if you're running a downhill race on a trail. Make sure you practice your nutrition and hydration. It's going to be different. Be aware of the environment around you as well, the security, the safety, the support along the race route, any of the medical aid and medical attention stops that you want to be aware of prior, just in case you should have an incident that requires their attention. And also prepare ahead of time on trail running and downhill running. If it's a trail downhill, if it's an asphalt or a cement or anything like that, you want to make sure also you're aware of where you're running and how you're going to run it. The other part that I wanted to recap a little bit from down last week was incorporate some strength training, incorporate some of your plyometrics, which are like your jump squats, your box jumps, a lot of agility drills. This is going to help your legs adapt and learn how to be in that decline motion for quite a long period of time without creating injury because your muscles are adapting to your training. Hydration, electrolytes, anything that allows you that little extra energy boost with your nutrition. You definitely want to practice all that ahead of time and be aware of how you're wearing your shoes. If you have a tendency to supinate and pronate, you might want to get shoes when you get your trail shoes, something has a little bit more support to give you more stability because of the type of running you're going to be doing. Quick recap. All right, Victor, the show is yours.
all right. So yes, I agree with everything that you said, and I'm just going to add that we're going to be covering quite a bit of downhill racing, and we'll try to pull up other races that we're going to be. I'm going to try to get um, the director of this race, and we would give more details on the race, and just encourage people to book a call with us if you have any
I,
questions. If you're really thinking about doing one of these races, that are downhill, but especially this one in particular, because I've ran this one, I can
Mhm.
help you and we can go through details about it. And I think it's one of the best things you can do. It's free. You can talk to us. We can go through the details of how to structure your plan so that you can have the best time and be injury free and really enjoy this race.
Right.
And if
And I,
you tell us what you're thinking about staying whether in the Seattle area or
mhm,
Snoqualmie area, we can look up what are the best things. I really want to go into details of where
right,
you can stay because the town where it's at, it's North Bend, Washington. It's very small. There's not much there. So you either stay in Snoqualmie or somewhere in the Seattle area and drive to there.
right. So you want to be prepared for all that too. And knowing Victor has firsthand experience in that, and any information we might need to research and acquire, we can get that for you. So plan that call with us. The other thing I will tell you that we will focus on some downhill races only because people are really in that season right now. However, we will get to the 10Ks, or we'll get to the flat ones, we'll get to the other parts of the country that offer some other types of interesting terrains and other type of interesting races. Some are a lot of fun. So we'll get to those too. If you have any questions or suggestions on something that we can address, please, please put it in our show notes as well. We'd love to bring up some different topics that y'all are interested in anytime.
Yes, I encourage to put the comments too of your experience. If you had experience running some of these downhills and you noticed something different that we haven't mentioned, or anything in particular, such as my story of getting a ticket,
Right.
put it put it in the comments. We want to learn, want to talk about it, and help each other.
I think it'd be great. So we're anxious to hear from all of y'all. Let us know what you think about our podcast today, and please share it with all your friends and family. You never know who that one person that never has run a step before, but may be thinking about it, might be interested in a little bit of information we can provide for them and maybe help them get to their goal. Please pass it along, and it's so good to see everyone. Victor, again next week.
Yes, next week, and we look forward to our next episode. In the meantime, keep running your best life.
Run your best life on every level. We'll see y'all soon. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.